wisdom,
prudentia,
justice,
justitia,
temperance,
temperantia,
courage.
fortitudo.
Applying ancient philosophy to modern life, this is the Sunday Stoic.
Howdy, and welcome to the Sunday Stoic Podcast. This is Steve. The Sunday Stoic is a podcast where we explore ancient philosophy and figure out how we could apply it to modern life to live a well-examined life that has a good flow, as the Stoics might say. How we can maintain equanimity and magnanimity and live well. I'm sick again. You can probably hear it in my voice, so I'm not going to have a giant episode this week because I can't talk very well this week. But technically speaking, this week is the second year anniversary of the Sunday Stoic Podcast, and I really appreciate everyone who's listened in and supported the show. Thank you to all my patrons. I will thank you all by name at the end of this episode. I also want to thank those of you who've gone onto my website and gave me a donation on PayPal to help keep the podcast going. That's greatly appreciated. I joked online about setting up a GoFundMe. I talked to Donald Robertson, if you listened to the episode a few weeks ago, about flying to Stoicon, and I think it would cost me about $2,000 to get there. And as a working father that teaches college in Arkansas, I don't know if I can afford to fly to Athens. I joked about doing a fundraiser for that, but I probably won't do that. I won't ask that much of my listeners, but it would be fun to go interview everyone at Stoicon. But this week we're going to hear from Musonius Rufus. We'll be moving on to Epictetus then. I'm not going to cover everything Musonius has to say. We've had episodes on him before on topics such as should women study philosophy and the like. So this week we're going to do a kind of a different topic. We're going to look at the question of should you listen to your parents in all circumstances? What do you think? Should you always listen to what your mom and dad have to say? Or are there times when you might need to approach it a little differently? The fragments of Musonius Rufus. Number 16. Must one obey one's parents under all circumstances? A certain young man who wished to study philosophy but was forbidden by his father to do so put this question to him. Tell me, Musonius, must one obey one's parents in all things? Or are there some circumstances under which one need not heed them? And Musonius replied, that everyone should obey his mother and father seems a good thing, and I certainly recommend it. However, let us see what this matter of obedience is, or rather first, what is the nature of disobedience, and let us consider who the disobedient person is, if in this way we may better understand what the nature of obedience is. Now then, take this case. If a father who is not a physician and not experienced in matters of health or sickness should prescribe for his invalid son something which was harmful and injurious, and the son was aware of the fact, surely in not following his father's prescription, he is not disobeying and is not disobedient, is he? It would not seem so. Or again, suppose the father himself were ill and should demand wine and food which he ought not to have, and which probably would aggravate his illness if he took it, and his son, realizing this, would not give it to him. Surely he is not disobeying his father, is he? Certainly one cannot think so. And yet I fancy one would consider far less disobedient than in this case the man who, having a money-loving father, is ordered by him to steal or to make away with money entrusted to him, but does not carry out the order. Or do you think there are no fathers who give such orders to their children? So in essence, the argument that Musonius is making here is that you should obey your parents whenever they tell you to do something that is good and proper. And to expand upon that, you are obeying your parents no matter what you do if it's good and proper. So if you are doing something good and proper, you are obeying your parents whether they told you to do that thing or not. Because ultimately what the parents want is what's best for you. And what's best for you is virtue, wisdom, doing the right thing, being just, etc. So, if your father was a plumber and you were a trained ship captain and you were out to sea one day with your dad on your boat and a storm blows in, you probably need not heed his advice on how to steer the ship in the storm to survive. That's not disobedience. That's doing what's best. That's playing your role as offspring to your father and doing what's right. So, from your parents' perspective, it may occasionally to them feel like you are disobeying, but if you are pursuing virtue, you are doing the right thing. I think that the trouble here would come when you have a 16-year-old who thinks they know it all, and so therefore thinks they are a ship captain when they are far from being that well trained, thinking they know better than their parents. So if you are an adolescent, depending on your circumstances, of course, always consider that perhaps you are not as wise as you currently think, and consider the advice from your folks. Now, in this example, Musonius has someone who wants to study philosophy, and basically their parents are like, like you're ever going to get a job doing that. You've heard that one before, right? What kind of job can you get studying philosophy? Oh, none? Okay, well, let's not do that then. You're going to do this. And the kid really wants to study philosophy. Musonius says, okay, they don't want you to study philosophy. Well, it's your job to teach them why it would be a good thing to study philosophy. Because if you study philosophy, you are going to be trustworthy, you're going to be hardworking, you're going to be content with little and willing to do much for society. And that has to be what your parents want of you ultimately. And this is the surefire way to get you there. But they just don't understand. So you may have to talk to them. You may have to do it anyway, even if they don't want you to, as long as you do it well, and ultimately you become a person that they would respect. You can read that yourself. You can check out Musonius Rufus. I'll put a link to his works in the show notes. He's got a lot of great short fragments here. These little essays, if you will. They're once again student notes from his lectures, apparently, where he gives advice on whether or not a Stoic should sue somebody if they're personally injured, and what somebody should wear, and what we should eat, and what our furniture in our house should be like, and all kinds of things that are very everyday advice from a Stoic. So check him out. Before we go today, I want to thank my patrons who make this show possible. Without them, there would be no Sunday Stoic. So these folks are as much a Sunday Stoic as the moron behind the microphone you hear before you. So, Brian, Carlos, Catherine, Christopher, Dan, David, Eric, Katie, Lisa, Lucas, Matthew, Michael, Nick, Nicole, Patrick, Preston, Roger, and Ron. Carpe diem. Patrons, stay tuned after the episode. I'll yap at you a little more. Everyone else have a good week.
Thank you for listening to The Sunday Stoic. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe, rate, and review The Sunday Stoic on iTunes. Become a member of the Sunday Stoic team, earn rewards, and be an integral part of the show by becoming a patron at www.patreon.com/SundayStoic. Contact the show by emailing sundaystoic@gmail.com or by leaving a voicemail at 501-503-3132. To find out more, visit www.sundaystoicpodcast.com. And as Steve always says, carpe diem.
Welcome to the Stoic Cosmopolis, a podcast for Sunday Stoic patrons.